In studio is my man, Frederick Edwards Jr., wearing the coolest shoes. Fred, put those up on the table right now. I know a lot of people are listening on radio, but these shoes, he calls them hiking boots. They're orange high-top Converse. Nobody's hiking in those, Fred. That's a beautiful shoe, man.
That is hilarious.
Fred, how did I get to meet you? Because it's a fun story of how this all came to be and the full circle that we get to live in now.
So actually, Erik Hatch was my voice coach. You were my voice coach for the TEDx NDSU. I remember you're also the judge. So we had all auditioned, and I was super nervous, and we had about 1 minute to give our snippet of what we wanted to do. And I just remember thinking to myself, I'm definitely not getting this, because your face was like, you were very stern, and everybody was just like, yeah.
Was I really?
Yeah, you're just like, this is, I think it was because you had never heard the spoken word piece before, so you're probably gravitating towards it.
I was trying really hard not to show that like you were hands down my favorite.
Right.
Because there were like 30 people that auditioned for TEDx NDSU. I got to be one of the curators of it and the sponsors of it, and so I had all these different roles and responsibilities. And then you were one of the last speakers, and I'm like, yeah, it's game over, but I can't be like grinning from ear to ear because I didn't for anybody else.
Right.
So I probably had to be stoic.
So I didn't think that I was gonna get I didn't think I was gonna win. That was number one. And then I found out that I won. And then they were like, your voice coach is gonna be Erik Hatch from Hatch Realty. And I was like, what? This is like a celebrity. So I'm gonna like be meeting with a celebrity, literally.
I mean, keep going. Like, it feels really good.
So I remember the first time I was coming to your office, I didn't have a car. I didn't have any of that, but it was all the way in South Fargo.
Yeah, you took an Uber, dude.
Yeah.
I didn't like even put it together that a college student wouldn't have a car.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, I'm used to growing up in Fargo where everybody seemed to have a car. You grew up in Minneapolis where not everybody had a car, right?
Yeah.
And so that was your norm now.
I biked around Fargo for like the first 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you ended up being my voice coach, and then I think I started learning about the Fargo culture more from. I think we met like once a week, every week for a little while.
Yeah, we did.
And then you were looking through my stuff, and you were saying things that I just remember now, like take these heavy pauses so then you can get the emotional build. Start to look at the audience. Swivel your head, different things like that. Made me do really excellent in my TEDx talk. And so
Well, I've done 2 TED Talks. You've done 1 TED Talk. Mine in total, the 2 talks have like 6,000 views. Your 1 TED Talk has over 27,000 views.
Yeah.
If you haven't Googled it, gang, go to Frederick Edwards Jr. TEDx or TED Talk. You're gonna find it. It is a powerful conversation about racism and inequality and some of the things that you've experienced your whole life.
absolutely.
What have you experienced your whole life, Fred? Because it has been, when you did your TED Talk 3 years ago, 45 of your friends had been shot and killed.
Yeah.
I can't fathom that, dude.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't register for me as an actual realistic thing.
Yeah, I believe I was 21 when I did my TED Talk, and then now I think we're at like 52 friends. We've lost I think I've lost 7 friends since the TEDx talk. To getting shot and killed. I've had friends go to jail. I've had friends, get addicted. They're in rehab. All these different things. But I had a huge family. I have 9 brothers and sisters. I'm the last child. I'm the 10th child. My mother had her tubes tied before I was born. And so I wasn't expected. Yeah. And so my mom.
Man, you've been determined as a sperm all the way through your whole life now. Like, look at that.
Pretty much, yeah. I have these on. I'm pretty sure I have a little pair of those on.
But like pushing through barriers has been something that, as a man who hasn't been black, you are black. You haven't been black, right?
Yeah.
It's even awkward for me to talk about because. Even 5 years ago, I was told like, hey man, we're to be colorblind, right?
Yeah.
Like we're to see everybody as equal, and like that's how I want to see things, Fred.
Yeah.
And then now the narrative has changed and it's gotten better, hasn't it?
Absolutely.
Like I need to see your color, don't I?
Yeah. I seen your post on Facebook and I was just like, wow. Like I remember talking to Erik Hatch about color blindness, and it was like, yeah, I can see where you're coming from. I might not be fully on board, but I see where you're coming from. And then to see that, it was like, he might be more on board than I am. Like, he knows more about this than I do. And so it was humbling, but it was also that idea that transformativeness happens when people have dialogue, when people have conversation, as well as when people, learn from other people's experiences.
So Fred, I want to dive into the tension that's in our country right now.
Yeah.
That's at the surface, because the tension's always been there.
Yeah.
It's now at the surface. Before I dive into that, tell our listening and viewing audience about you. Like, what are you doing now with your life? Because you're doing some really great things.
Yeah, so I'm currently the graduate assistant at the Office of Multicultural Programs. So I help recruit, people of color to NDSU. I help recruit people of color to Fargo, to be completely honest. I tell people about my life. I mentor, at different schools, Liberty Middle School and all these different other middle schools and elementary schools. I do Dead Compassion with Raleigh Johnson.
I did that for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
And now you're like the way cooler guy than me. I'm the dorky middle-aged balding guy that's trying to relate to kids. And Raleigh's 20 years older than me. And
right.
So you are able to, man, just the energy you bring and the positivity in life. What a cool thing you're doing with those in schools.
Yeah, it was insane. Raleigh Johnson, he just took me under his wing. He's a lot like you. You guys have huge hearts. You guys have huge compassion. You guys have purpose. I think that is the biggest thing, is when you're going places with no purpose, you usually don't have intention. And so Raleigh's very intentional about allowing these kids to see themselves, to see their value, and to learn about compassion. And he's a dude. He's a different dude. Like he might be a little older, but he has a younger spirit than me and you. So
Yes,
I just appreciate the fact that he allowed me to share my story, and then he challenged me to, make my story more about, compassion, make it more about something that these kids can do that was tangible. And so I started to develop this story about, being better over being bitter. You have to choose that on a daily basis, because there's so many things in life that allow you to, want to be bitter, be angry, be upset. And it's like, you got to choose to be better or to make those things better.
So from the George Floyd murder to systemic racism to police brutality, like, how are you not bitter, or are you bitter?
I don't think I have time to be bitter. So I had a friend killed in a drunk driving accident 3.5 weeks ago. I don't know if I remember telling you this, but the reason why I even started to develop my purpose and my passion of motivating others and pushing people forward was because I got hit by a drunk driver.
You never told me that.
Yeah, I think I was kind of still recovering it, because I was only 20 when it happened. And so it was like my freshman year of college, 19 turning 20. We're going on spring break. Drunk driver swerved, and his median past that went into our fast lane, hit us going about 95 miles an hour. He was in an SUV truck.
Oh my gosh.
We were in a Dodge Avenger. The truck was smashed in half, and I just remember my life flashing before my eyes. My roommate at the time, he had broken his femur. It's the strongest bone in your body. It's shattered like glass. The person behind me had 6 broken ribs. I had nothing wrong with me, and so there's the idea of survival skill, right? Having nothing wrong with you, but you have the experiences and you have the.
Were you bitter before that?
I was very angry. I was a very young, angry kid, because there was a lot of things going on in my community that I never really had time to heal from, that collective grief, right? A lot of things going on, but you have to keep pushing forward. I wanted to go to college really bad my senior year. I never thought I was going to go to college before that. And so pushing for that was incredible in itself. And so when I got hit by the drunk driver, it was like, dude, start, how would you be remembered? What would be your legacy? And so even if you look on my Instagram, it says,
you are a guy with purpose right now, Frederick.
Yeah. So I'm pushing forward, and I think that's the biggest thing, is that I'm not afraid of change. I'm not afraid to be uncomfortable. And so getting hit by that drunk driver, then having a friend killed by a drunk driver, she had a 5-year-old kid in her back seat when she hit my friend, and she was released on she was already on probation for a DUI. She was released on another probational thing, and then the next day George Floyd was killed. And so it's just like this idea that justice is not being served all over. And so I tried to not take it personal and say, well, what can I do in the Fargo community? What can I do in the Fargo-Moorhead community? And so I started pushing for change. I started helping people organize and different things of that sort. I'm supporting One Fargo. I'm supporting the Black Lives Matter movement that is going to be moving here. There's going to be a chapter developed here, and so they want me to be an interim leader. And so I think that there's so much change that is possible here, and so I'm super excited.
So you're excited about change instead of resting in the frustration, which is that is the definition of maturity, man. And that is unique. I don't care if you're black or white or yellow or anything in between. That doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, I don't remember who said it, but they were like, to be black in America is to be at rage, to be infuriated, and to be sad and demoralized, but to be focused all in the same accord. And so it's just like, you can feel all those emotions, but a lot of times you push it out on other people. You deflect. You know, you hurt the people who are trying to help. And so if you see this fanatic going on social media, people are tearing down other people. You know, they're like allies tearing down allies because they aren't doing this or they aren't doing that. And so there's this idea that there has to be people willing to educate people. There have to be people willing to have that dialogue and discussion and ask those tough questions without, you know, denying what's really going on.
Fred, I want to talk to you for a while here in this conversation. We're going to go to break in a couple of minutes, but folks, if you're listening on the radio right now, I want you to go to Hatch Realty's Facebook page. We're going to be airing this entire interview on there, but we're going to keep going. And I want to simply ask this question, Fred. I'm a man of privilege. What do I need to do better?
I seen this T-shirt, and I'll never forget it. It said, "Use your white privilege to show that Black lives matter." And in doing that and using,
but I want to say this, and I heard Michael Che. He's on Saturday Night Live and a comedian. I heard him just the other day say, like, "Do we really fight about everything in America?" And then he goes on to say, "The stance is Black Lives Matter. Like, not Black lives are superior or even equal. Like, gay rights, we're fighting for equality. Black lives are just trying to say, hey, guys, we're here, we matter."
Exactly.
Like, that is so.
Matter is the minimum. Matter is the minimum.
That is just, that's unacceptable. Like, Black Lives Matter is a really powerful movement, but it needs to be more than that, dude. And I'm at a loss of what to do. What do I need to do?
I would say the biggest thing is reading anti-racist books, you know, anti-racist doctrine. I think that a lot of people, from David Duke, you know, to Donald Trump, none of them can say that they're racist. You know, there is no racism at all. And so you can go to the most racist people in our society, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and ask them, you know, are you a racist? They even have vices on these people, and they would say, no, I'm not a racist. And so it's this idea that you have to learn what anti-racism is. And so once you do that and have that dialogue about anti-racism, then you can start having the dialogue about what is dismantling a system that benefits from racism.
You know, I saw something this morning, a friend posted, and they said something about how our silence is inducing violence if we're white. Our silence is inducing violence. And I agree with that to a part. Because right now, I'm trying to stay silent because I need to learn. And I need to not lead with my assumptions and my biases, and I need to shut up and listen to somebody like you who has a different perspective on life. And I don't need to talk about my perspective right now. I just need to learn about yours. And then I need not be silent. If I'm understanding what you're saying, Fred, I'm trying to put this in my own languages. I need not be silent, but instead I need to be not just not racist. I need to be anti-racist.
Absolutely.
What does it mean to be anti-racist?
To be anti-racist is to fight against practices, policies, and, you know, everyday life that benefits the racial tide in America. And so there's this idea that America is following a racial stream, and you have to be swimming up that stream. In order to swim up that stream, you have to be anti that stream. And so that stream is racism, and so you have to be swimming up it. And you're always going to be at resistance. You're going to be at resistance with yourself because you're like, you know, I'm arguing, I'm debating, I'm talking about these different things, and people are enjoying their day. You know what I'm saying? And then there's times where you're like, this is not right. You know, we are putting a policy in place that, you know, doesn't protect all people or different things of that sort. And so Martin Luther King talks about, I'm not afraid of the KKK. I'm not afraid of the racist politics or politicians. I'm afraid of the white moderate, because the white moderate is the one that is keeping things going because they don't see anything going on.
Oof.
Yeah.
I'm going to end with this. We're going to go to break again. Folks, if you're listening on the radio, I want you to go to hatchrealty.com, or excuse me, go to Hatch Realty's Facebook page. We're going to continue this conversation with Fred here. One of my favorite authors is named Shane Claiborne. He says that the biggest threat to our world today, and he wrote his book, The Irresistible Revolution, years ago, but he said the biggest threat to our world today is not global AIDS, and it's not poverty, and it's not whatever it may be. And instead, he said the biggest threat to our issue today are the white picket fences and SUVs of the world that are keeping us from our own backyards of the change that really needs to happen. And, and Fred, you are a part of that change, man. I am so proud of you, of the man that you are, and the upstream battle that you continue to fight. We're going to go to break. This is, again, Erik Hatch with Hatch Realty. Folks, come right back, but in the meantime, go to our Facebook page so we can keep chatting with Fred. And Fred, I want to say, an upstream battle with an optimistic attitude, that is obviously a gift. Is that shared in the Black community, or are you like a unique a unique four-leaf clover in that sense?
I think it comes with time, right? Because a lot of times, a lot of people give up because they see like nothing is going to change, right? Right before this interview, I literally had a conversation with my girlfriend, and like I told you right before I came here, like me and her were crying, you know, in the car, and we were sad about what was going on because at the end of the day, sometimes you feel defeated, sometimes you feel hopeless, sometimes you feel like, you know, Martin Luther King fought for nonviolent, you know, protests. He fought for economics and poverty to be, you know, not a thing anymore, and so he was assassinated, you know, his mother was assassinated, you know, and so there's this idea that, you know, what do you do? You know, how are you safe? Do you go with the stream? Do you care more for white acceptance than black lives? And so there's this idea that, you know, you have to have that conversation with yourself. What is more important? And so I think I can't say that I'm like a unicorn all on my own, because there are people who are fighting specifically for black people to get, you know, financial freedom. There are people fighting for black people to get housing, equal housing, things of that sort. And so we're all fighting in our own ways, I believe, but there are also people who, just like white people, who don't care about what's going on. They just want to focus on themselves. There's that individuality part, that individualism that's like, nobody else matters. I'm about me and my family, and at the end of the day, I can't control anything outside of that, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Fred, you mentioned your girlfriend, and I haven't met her, but I saw a picture of her. She's way prettier than you, first of all.
Yeah.
I married up too, so good on you. And I'll tell you this: she's pregnant right now, and you're about to be a dad.
Yeah.
Bringing your kid into the world amidst COVID, amidst some really big injustices, some very blatant racism, a louder social media platform than it's ever been before, and a whole bunch of people have voice, and they really are saying what is their true colors. And this is just a very strange time to be a father and to bring a kid into this world.
Yeah, 96 days I would bring a kid into this world, and we were actually supposed to get married at the courthouse, but the courthouse was closed because of COVID. There's a whole bunch of stuff that happened in the last year and a half that if you had told me a year and a half ago would have happened, I would have been like, no way.
Hey, Fred, for real on this, I'm an ordained guy.
Are you really?
Online, yeah. Oh, I got an online certificate that can marry people.
Yes.
So if you and your girl want to get married, we can make that happen.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That would be. Yeah, we need to talk about that after this, definitely. Cause
I if you want me to do special music too, you're asking the wrong guy. But if you need an awkward dancer, I'm now that guy again.
Absolutely, absolutely.
What is it like to be bringing a kid into the world in this current climate?
It gives me hope. I think that it gives me hope for, you know, me being able to see, you know, the Creator work in itself and allow me to have a seed that is, you know, in fruition, and I can, you know, allow that to see love. I think that that's one of the biggest things that I talk about even in my TED Talk is love is a lot of the answers for a lot of things going on. And so when you push with love and you penetrate the hearts with love, you see people, you know, who push love out. You know, even in your story, when you read your book, the book that you have out right now, you talk about your mother and how your mother pushed that love into you about caring for others and pushing for others and pulling for others. Even if she didn't get any benefits in her own, it was something that she wanted to do because the love was entwined in her and it penetrated. And so it's just like the same thing with other people. Like my father and my mother, they had rocks thrown at them when they were younger. They had, you know, they weren't allowed to go to the movie theaters, and when they did, you know, there was soda poured on their heads and different things of that sort. And so their response to the hate was, you know, we were loved at a certain percentage, right? Maybe like 35, 45%, because our parents were loved at an even smaller percentage. There's that generational trauma that goes on. And so they were like, we want to show you love at a way higher percentage than we were shown love, right? And so that percentage gets greater and greater as the generations come. But if hypothetically your father or mother was to get shot and killed, you might not get that transferable love. Or if your father or mother was to, you know, pass away or something like that from, you know, a hate crime or something like that, you might not bring that to your kids or whatnot. And so there's this idea that you have to push with love. And so that's what my kid does for me. It allows me to say, you know, man, if I'm going to push love into my kid, I got to push love into these other kids. And so when I was mentoring with Riley Johnson, nobody knew what was going on or that I was having a baby on the way, because, you know, you got to wait that period and make sure everything is good. And so I remember talking to these kids about, like, you got to be better over, you know, being bitter. And I remember, like, literally leaving there and somebody cutting me off on the road, and I'm just like, yo, are you serious right now? And I just remember thinking to myself, like, what did you tell those kids? You know, and so there's this idea when you talk about even my own kid. So when you're talking about, you know, when you're talking to other people's kids, you have to really be truthful about what you're doing and very honest. And so I tell people all the time, like, I'm not a role model, because role models play a role. Like, I'm a real model in a way that I can make mistakes, hold me accountable if I'm doing things wrong, allow me to, see my mistakes in fruition, but also, push me and pull me, to make a change. And if I tell you, I'm intentional about love, and then you see me doing something that isn't about love, talk to me about that, because I think that you have to push with love, because that's all I have for my kid right now. I have to show them a world of love, even though outside of that world, like, I don't know if you've ever met Destiny. There's this lady, she has Birth of a Diamond. She's from Moorhead, and she created this business in which Destiny Holiday, I'm pretty sure her name is. Okay. Her parents were sharecroppers. She's an older lady. Her parents were sharecroppers, and she's from Georgia, and she moved to Florida, and then she moved all over. But she's here in town. Well, she's down in Moorhead, and one thing she talked about was she was never allowed to play outside of her house. She couldn't play with her neighbors. She couldn't, go to another person's house and spend the night. The only people that she had was her mom and dad, and those were the people pushing love to her. You know what I'm saying? And so she never even knew what the hate was outside of that until they left their house, because they had to go into the backside of a store to get food, or they had to, drink from the black-only, fountains and things of that sort. And so you see that the only way that we have been able to benefit and push forward is resistance and love. And so there's a lot of people who feel as though, what's the point of giving love if I'm never going to get love back? A lot of people are struggling with poverty, things going on. Like, when I go back home, I got brothers and sisters who are struggling, but then they will give me their last, without a doubt, because that's my family. Those are the people that they want to push love into. And they see me, and there are people who see me and they say, like, oh, he thinks he's better than us now, or oh, he thinks that he has this and this and that. And I'm like, those are your own insecurities. At the end of the day, I can go back to the trenches and I can be in a home that might not look that good, and I won't judge those people, because that's where I come from. I come from shelters. I come from 6 people living in a 2-bedroom house. Like, that's what I come from. And so there's this idea that when people come back from college, or when people come back from these trade schools, or even traveling the world, then they come back to their hometown, they judge these people, and they ostracize these people, and they say, oh, these people will never learn. And it's like, you're not showing them love. Somebody, when you went to that other country, when you went to that school, a professor or, a traveler, they showed you love. They showed you a way to think about the world differently. I got to go to Australia. That was February 3rd, I went to Australia. I seen a way different side of life. I seen these different people, but they were still struggling with underlying racism. They're still struggling with underlying, poverty.
So this isn't a Fargo problem. This isn't a Minneapolis problem. Man. This is a global issue.
If you look all around the world, wherever there are brown people, there is oppression. And so there is this idea that imperialism, colonialism, racism all benefit capitalism in a way, right? Because somebody has to profit off of racism. Somebody has to profit off of pain. Think about how many white people made a George Floyd shirt and made tons of dollars and didn't donate it. You know what I'm saying? And so there's this idea that people have to profit off of pain.
It's a power and a profit play.
Yeah, yeah.
Fred, we need to be better.
Yeah.
We as white people, we as a community, we need to be better. And I want to make sure we have a very clear takeaway for those that are listening and watching right now. If we need to be better, what is the one thing? Simplify it. Dumb it down for me. I'm a dumb guy, man. Just dumb it down for me. How can I be better?
I would say learn from your past, push with love, and have those conversations with white people who are not progressive. Those aren't the people that we're reaching for. Those aren't the people that are necessarily trying to ostracize and kill and push people to be less than. And so penetrate the hearts of those who might not be penetrated by somebody like me because they have their defensive already. And so I would say lead with love, learn from your history. I think that is so important. Don't allow people who have created a falsified history to tell you, well, that didn't happen. Oh, I didn't know about, how smallpox was given to Native Americans or different things of that sort. Like, read, genuinely read. I think that the more that you have educational processes yourself, the more that you can say, hey, man, I think that you're you're telling this story, but you're only telling one part of it.
Yeah.
You know, and then you can have that dialogue, but you can lead with love, because at the end of the day, you're telling somebody like, dang, man, you're stupid. Like, you're going to get more and more people killed. They're going to have that defense up, and then they're going to, you know, not do that. And then the biggest thing I would say is stop unfriending and blocking people because they have different views than you. Because now you are pushing this person to be educated by somebody else who is most likely going to be somebody like me. And then they already have been blocked, they have been unfriended, and they have been taught, well, my opinions are my opinions, right? And so...
And they only hear one voice then, right? They're only hearing the people that they agree with.
Your Facebook is literally catered to you now.
Yeah. Man, Frederick Edwards Jr., dude, I am so proud of you.
I appreciate that.
For the love that you exude, for the oppression that you fought, but even more importantly, for what you're doing in this world, and you're making a real difference. And I'm sincerely really proud of you, man.
I appreciate that. I would have to say I'm proud of you as well. You know, you have one of the hugest companies in Fargo. People know about your company in Minneapolis all the time when people are like, dang, you did so well in your TED Talk. I talk about the people who helped with that. Steve Winfrey, you know, Erik Hatch, you know, Matt Scoy. Those are people who were white people who helped me build up talking about racial discrimination, right? But even in that, on your Facebook, you are very much transparent, and you love that you want change. And there are a lot of people who are afraid, and they're trying to protect their business, and they're trying to protect, you know, this idea or these ideas that somebody might have a different way of life than you know, and there are a lot of people who are in the same position of you who would never ever post anything about racism. They would never ever want to do a podcast or any of that about racism. So I think you should not necessarily pat yourself on the back, but I commend you because there are other people who should be doing the same thing and they are not. And you know, you choose to because
thanks, man.
It's not easy. You know, I would hate to say that it is, because even, you know, looking at NDSU as an institution, they're afraid to lose money right now. You know, other institutions are afraid to lose money.
You know what I'm afraid of? Because that thought crossed my mind.
Yeah.
In saying, man, I really want to get Fred on here and I want to learn, but like it could have people unfriend me. It could have people choose not to do business with me. I'm more afraid of losing my character than I am my money. This is not about money. This is about the man that God is calling me to be, and I am not that man yet. I'm trying to get there, but I'm not that man yet.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. Dude, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, honestly.